Blog Talk Radio.
John. Here, you earn this. Sure you wrote it big enough?
Yes, old King George should be able to see that.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, a decent respect requires that they declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to establish new government. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, do, and with the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is, and ought to be, totally dissolved. In the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
Either you are with us, or you are with the terrorists.
But I also believe that a lot of gun owners would agree that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals.
Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, and this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday When the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary because by that time we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than death, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
All right, everybody, Joseph Gibson, podcasting here from Greensboro, North Carolina. It's 8:36 p.m. on the East Coast. We are podcasting here worldwide. We do have international callers that are listening right now. They've been listening for the past few shows, actually. So I want to say hello to them. We got a couple in England. Let's see, Philippines. The Philippines is the other one, and Singapore, actually, also. Yep, Mike from Singapore, he's tuned back in. Everyone remembers who's been following the show, Mike from Singapore. Remember, he's called in quite a few times, and he's listening. So, welcome to the show, everyone. Tonight, we're going to have, hopefully, a very good show, powerful show, and we obviously are talking about what is happening and understanding the times in which we live today. What the hell's going on out there? A lot of people have questions. The questions, I don't think, can be answered on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows. Something strange is going on. When you have World War II veterans coming up to you saying, I have never seen anything like this in my entire life. Even back during the Great Depression, the Wall Street crash, 29, during the World War II, I had one guy, World War II vet say, his father fought in World War I. Never heard of something like this. Never. I've never met anybody from the Civil War, obviously, or anybody that did know someone from the Civil War. Maybe, quite possibly, the Civil War, maybe, something like this, where we were confined to our homes. I don't know. But I don't think that would have lasted too long. I mean, everyone was farmers back then. But, what's going on here? Confined to our home, shelter in place. The government is ordering us to stay inside of our homes. Now, is that really happening? I have not heard anyone tell me that they are locked inside their home and cannot come out. I have not heard that. However, if you turn on the TV, which you're not going to get all the truthful information from the TV, they do live shots of Times Square, and it's a ghost town. And if you know New York City, Times Square, if there's nobody in Times Square, there has to be someplace else, and most of them are from New York City, and if they're not walking the streets of New York, they're living in their tiny little apartments where they pay $5,000 a month rent. So, and where they probably got maybe 3 hours worth of food supply. So what's going on here? Really, what is going on? And at least down here in North Carolina, it's business as usual. Everything is the same pretty much, except the restaurants they're doing carry out instead of eating in. The grocery stores are open. The gas stations are open. There's less traffic on the road. I kind of like that. Everything's shutting down at 7 o'clock. I guess everything's closing early. That's what the word I got today. Everything's closing early, even the grocery stores. So, I mean, that could be because the shelves are empty. I don't know. But if you go into Greensboro and start driving around downtown Greensboro, everything is pretty much business as normal. So nothing really has changed. So that leads me to believe, are we watching a Twilight Zone like kind of thing here or on TV? Are we being lied to and none of this is really happening? Or is some of it happening and a lot of it's not happening? Or is a lot of it happening and some of it's not being told to us? What's going on out there? For real, what's going on? And we all know people who live around the country, and we're all calling each other trying to get answers and trying to figure out what's going on. The National Guard's being called up. They're being mobilized. But they're only being mobilized as medics, from what I was told. You know, is that wrong or right? I mean, if the National Guard comes in and it's helping the sheriffs and helping the police departments. Avery County, North Carolina, the sheriffs put out on the news today, call us if you're afraid or you're elderly and you're sick, and we will deliver your groceries for you. We will pick up your medication. Okay, amen. That's what their job should be. You know, like the old Andy Griffith days, when Barney says, why are we doing our laundry? Because we are civil servants. Hey, why not, right? Nothing wrong with that. So if that's what Avery County's doing here in North Carolina, God bless them. That's what they should be doing. Sheriff pulls somebody over. Hey, they got a broken tail light. Yeah, well, let me help you fix it. Oh, well, you know what? Well, meet me up at AutoZone. Whatever. Obviously, I'm not a grown man. I'm just saying, a 90-year-old woman who doesn't have a clue how to turn a screwdriver, stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what they're there for. Not pulling people over, writing them a $300 ticket because they didn't have their seatbelt on because they just got in their car and they forgot to put it on. That's just ridiculous. However, that's not what it's all about now. Now we're being told to, remain in our houses, but nobody's doing it. Or are they? What's going on? Can we get some intel out there from everyone? And I want to hear from the younger generation out there, the millennials. I want to know what your take is, because this is something that nobody has seen now. But the millennials, this must be one hell of a shock. Because you've grown up in a information age type of thing, the Y2K thing, and a lot of you, and some of you weren't even around during September 11th. I mean, the younger ones there, they weren't even around when the towers were dropped there in New York. So this has to be, and nothing shut down then. We weren't under house arrest, right? I mean, the country was under attack, remember? For the entire 24-hour period there afterwards, everything was on red alert. I mean, no planes were flying. They did ground all air traffic, though. They did do that, of course. 4 planes just got hijacked. That's nothing wrong with that. But it was, right away they were right back up in the air flying. But so what's going on, guys? I want to hear from the millennials out there, especially. I'm going to go down the line. All you have to do is phone number 657-383-0616. And press the number 1 only one time. I'll see your number light up. All calls are unscreened, uncensored. That's one of the reasons why I do that, because some people are a little nervous about talking on the radio, and they don't know who's out there listening. So unscreened, uncensored. Now, I don't give out your phone number or your name if you don't want to. So let me move right down the line here. I'll start with the first caller. Let's go with 812. You're first. Go ahead.
Hey, evening, Joe. How you doing, sir?
All right. What's up, buddy?
Well, I'm alive today. Don't think I got coronavirus. Everything's still kicking. Haven't seen the National Guard rolling down the streets yet. Good sign. Getting a lot of news, a lot of information. Hearing of some more shutdowns. Been paying attention to the wire a little bit, and nothing's really changed in my neck of the woods, other than people still going fanatic at the stores. Even the elderly people around here are starting to get violent and angry at the younger generation. And I'm hearing stories of older people cussing out other people for being at Walmart and Sam's Club before 8 o'clock now, because they're interrupting on the seniors' time to shop. It's gotten that bad.
That's true. They like to get up early. Yeah.
So, and what you said about the millennial generation, I think it'd be a good idea to hear from them. I really like that. Get their input on it. I mean, we already know some of the stuff we're probably going to hear is, been pre-programmed into their head by, people and influences in their life, other adults, and, by what they've seen in the media. I mean, you can't hardly blame them for what they've learned. These kids today don't know how to think for themselves and form an opinion that somebody else didn't form for them. My thought process on it is listen to what they have to say, and if you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it, but try to educate them. Some kids nowadays, won't accept any kind of advice or opinions or cold hard truth for that fact of matter. This younger generation don't realize that they're our future, and me and you and everybody else.
We actually did this some years ago. I got high school students onto the show actually, and asked them a lot of questions about the high schools with security cameras being up in their schools and everything, because I did a show about that actually, where back when I was a kid, the doors were unlocked in the schools. We'd be able to come and go as we please. Today the doors are locked. They have sheriffs sometimes at them, and they got cameras down every hallway. And when I heard that, I was like, what? And I had to do a show about that. But I did do a high school show, and so how the world has changed. A lot of millennials don't understand how we grew up. And sometimes parents don't discuss this things with their children, and they don't understand it. They don't get it. And I think that's what's lost. Not all parents, but a lot. And I'd like to hear what the millennials' take on is about what freedom really is. What does freedom mean to them? Because that's not freedom. Just for an example, being in high school and having a camera watch me as I go into the little boys' room there. I don't think that's freedom. They would have been torn down off the ceilings when I was in high school. But today, it's a different story. So that's so our society's kind of changed.
I think of our schools nowadays as penitentiaries in training. And it's getting our younger generation used to being confined, insecurities and such.
Well, is that true, Chad? I think I've got a caller here that's a teenager. I think I've got one here that's a teenager that wants to talk. And I'll tell you what, you can ask some questions or go back and forth with him and see what have them. Obviously, they've been listening to the show here now for a few minutes and got the take. I'm going to bring this individual on. I don't know his name. Let's see. It's go ahead. You'll hear it unmuted. I don't even know if I want to give out your area code. I don't know. I don't want to do anything here that I shouldn't. But go ahead. You're unmuted. You know who you are. Wyatt, correct?
Yes, sir. I do.
All right. You're on the phone with Chad. So, Chad, you go ahead and ask him some questions or whatnot. Because we want to hear from the younger generation how they feel what's going on today.
Okay. Well, it's good to meet
you. Hi, how are you doing?
It's very nice to meet you, sir.
Can you speak up, sir? I can't hear you.
I said I'm Wyatt. It's very nice to meet you, sir.
Say that again.
He said, "Nice to meet you." He said, "Nice to meet you."
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear him. It was pretty muffled.
All right. Well, that's also that's also another thing too. I had that problem when I had the high school kids on years ago. It's like, and no offense, no disrespect to the younger generation. It's like because they live in that text messaging world. They don't speak to. They don't have that communication skill. No disrespect. It's just that they have that. It's all numbers on a text phone, on a cell phone. Where they talk to each other. They'll be sitting at a table with their friends. Instead of talking to each other, they're text messaging each other. You know, and I find that is a communication barrier between the older generation and the younger generation, and that's something that needs to probably be broken down. Wyatt, do you feel that's like something that I mean, you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, sir, I absolutely do. My thoughts on that are just that, like, people seem to have especially the younger generation, have an easier time communicating over text. It's because they feel like they can hide behind it. When really, I mean, you've got a name on the phone, you know who the person is. So, personally, I never understood it. I would much rather prefer talking to somebody directly than talking in text messages. I hate text, but I do it because.
Well, so you're the rule then. You're the exception to the rule then. You're not an individual that's like that. Obviously, you must have good parents who brought you up the proper way. But obviously, you have friends, and most of your friends are like that. So, and is that a courage? And basically, you're saying that's a courage thing. You know, where they want to hide behind it. Why do they want to hide behind it?
I feel like they want to hide behind because some of the things they want to say just. They don't have the courage to say them up front. They don't have the courage to say them face to face with somebody. They say it over text messages, and they think they can run away from that situation at that point. When, in all honesty, you can't.
Yeah,
it's just
and Wyatt, while I got you on here, I want to ask you something. Today, you see what's going on today. How are your friends and people? How are your friends and your little circle and whatnot? How are they reacting to what's happening today with what's going on with this virus and everything else? And also, if I don't know who's got the background noise, if it's Wyatt or Chad, somebody. If there's any background noise, all the callers won't be able to hear our conversation. So we got to be careful of that. But how are your friends reacting to what's going on right now in the news media with this virus thing?
Oh, they are all freaking out over it. So they're bunkering down, they're hiding in their houses. The only problem is they're not preparing for anything. They can't see 10 feet in front of their faces. They think everything's going to be okay and that the government's just going to handle it for them. When in all honesty, that's not going to happen. I don't know. They just can't see it for what it really is.
So Wyatt.
Oh, that's interesting. Go ahead, Chad.
Wyatt. So in your school now, okay, the times have changed from, you know, just for a question, how old are you, sir?
18.
You're 18, okay. You're 18.
Yes, sir.
I had already been serving on combat deployments and such before you were even born. And I went to school in a different time zone, just a whole different lifestyle. Pre 9/11, you know, and times have changed since I've been in school. But now, with your generation and the things that you constantly worry about, what is your biggest fear in public schools now? What scares you the most about being a student in a public school?
Personally, I do not go to public school. I graduated, but I was taken out of schools before I graduated because of the fact of the indoctrination that's in the school system. I was homeschooled because of that reason. When they started bringing Muslim faith into school, that's when I decided I did not want to be a part of that anymore. I don't believe in that. I believe in the fact that there's many people who fought and died for the right for God in this country and not the Muslims' God. There were people who fought against that and died because of it. 9/11 happened because of that reason. So with that being said, why am I going to sit in class and dishonor every one of those soldiers? My biggest fear is the indoctrination. It's how many of my friends I see get turned against this country based on the fact of the school system.
I can understand that.
Chad, you got the background noise, brother, because I muted myself. It's not Wyatt, it's you. You got to be careful. I think it's a fan blowing in your background. I don't know what it is, but yeah, because he was making some good points there, and it kept interrupting him. So just please watch your background noise.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead, Chad. Go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Is that better?
But it's just afterwards. Well, it's afterwards. It's like, you know what I mean? And that's what. So when he was answering that question,
probably my headphones. Yeah, it's probably my headphones.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
So, what? Why? My thought on this is, you are in a generation that, has been, not saying necessarily you, but, just a part of the millennial generation that has been sheltered.
Right.
Because your parents, okay, or, people your age's parents, they're 9/11 kids. They were young. I mean, we were all young when the terrorist attacks. And from then on, around a couple years before that, we had our first big high school shooting in Columbine.
Right.
So from about the late 90s, 99 on, we started witnessing a more volatile life. And so do you feel that seeing and knowing the things that had happened probably had a lot to do with your generation's coddledness?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part? I didn't hear you.
Do you feel that all the violent stuff that happened from the Columbine, the school shootings, 9/11 had a lot to do with the way that your generation was treated and coddled by their parents?
No, yes, I'd answer that question with yeah. In certain situations, there are for sure people who coveted their children from that, and especially the media itself, because of the fact of 9/11, the pictures and the videos of 9/11, I was taken off of the media soon after it happened because it was declared too horrific for people to see. And with my belief on that subject alone is that people need to see that. They need it because, I mean, hell, they took down our people. That was our people who fell in those towers. Those men and women.
I agree with that. And that's a good point, Chad, that you brought up, because when I was a kid, remember the space shuttle that blew up, the Space Shuttle Challenger, I think it was, right?
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and I remember them showing that in school, replaying it for us, because it was a tragedy, and we had to, we said the Pledge of Allegiance, where we sang My Country Tis all that, and we got up, and it was like a big morning of silence the next day in school. I remember that, but to that point, you're meaning that their kids today are being coddled that they would never show the buildings coming down. Oh, that's too traumatic for the kids because they'll have to go see counselors now. They need stress management. Am I right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. It just seems like everything's too traumatic nowadays. It over-affects everybody. They need their safe zone. And that's where I think the coddling comes from, especially I'm Generation Z, but I know most of my friends are older than me.
I like that. Generation me.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, but the kids today, they're also, like, for instance, the racial lines in the schools, where if you're a white kid and and it's like, it's crazy where the white person, the white man or the white boy is like demonized in the high schools. Did you ever see that in high school or the school system? Like, for instance, they're like not taught to be a man anymore, stand up for, you kind of get where I'm getting at?
Yes, sir. I understand what you're getting at, the racial lines. If you look at racism was not as big of a problem in the country many years ago as it is today because of the fact of how big of a problem the media has made it. Everybody keeps making it this big deal when nobody, it wasn't such a big deal beforehand because everybody stopped screaming it. There wasn't anybody screaming racism over this or that.
That's true. That's true. You're absolutely correct. Because I'm trying to, like, for instance, my generation and growing up, the kids were along racial lines pretty much got along with each other in a way. They knew their ground, we knew ours, and everyone, you know, they were just they were. You just got to be you, like you said, just be me.
Mutual respect.
You know, and today, yeah, mutual respect. And today, it's not along those lines. It's everybody who plays a sport is a winner. There's no winner or loser because, you know, even second place, you get a trophy too, you know. I mean, because we can't hurt the feelings of that child, you know. And
right.
and then we get, you know, between the girls and the boys too, you know. Like, for instance, the girls are equal, so they should be able to play soccer too with the boys, you know, stuff like that. We used to have, you know, different gym classes, the boys with the, you know, separated from the girls because you know, it just didn't work out. But today they're co-ed. They're more a co-ed type of class, you know.
Right. It's just, especially along the lines of the participation trophies, those annoy me more than anything, if I'm being honest. Because why am I going to strive every night? If I'm on a football team and I go out there and I strive every night to be better, to get that position that I'm looking for, and then I get to win the final game, I get the championship, and I turn around and the guy's second place, the guys that beat at the and first the playoffs, middle of the playoffs, and they got the same trophy. Why the hell did I do all that striving? Why did I put myself through all that when all they did was sit at home and get the same damn thing?
Exactly. And we got other callers on the line, Chad. I just wanted to let you know that, too. I don't know if you have more questions for Wyatt, but how does Wyatt feel about capitalism? You know, because today we're the way that the generation, the millennials are growing up, they're anti-capitalists because these people also that are old, you know, and that's where, you know, capitalism is, you know, you build something, you make something, you should be rewarded, and you know, you grow upon that and you build upon that.
Right.
But today, it's like we just said, everyone should have equal of everything. You know, we're all equal when in fact we're not. We're individuals, and we you know, we should be treated as individuals. We're all different. You know, but today we don't embrace those differences. We embrace we should be equal, and that's not right. But how does the young men and girls out there that you're growing up with and were raised with, how do they view the capitalist type of system that we have here? Are they against it? Like, I mean, because there's a lot of people that support Bernie Sanders out there that are millennials. That's where I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I guess there's a bad corn in every crop, though. But with that being said, most of my friends personally, we love capitalism. I do know people who say socialism is the way to go, and I didn't know them for very long after I found that out about them.
Hey, drug dealers love capitalism.
Yeah. I've got some other callers, Chad. I've got some other callers that may want to ask them a question or want to make a comment about having a younger gentleman on the platform here tonight, an 18-year-old who's basically a part of the millennial crowd. So I'm going to go ahead and go with 203. This is Connecticut. Go ahead, because I recognize the number. Go ahead.
I just have a quick thing to say because it's not very often we get an 18-year-old on here to speak. And I believe his name is Wyatt, and if not, excuse me. And what I want to say is, just about 50 years ago when I was your age, I wish I knew then what I know now. Sounds like you got a good head on your shoulder. Listen to your elders, because they know what's best for you. That's all I have to say.
All right, well, thank you. Go ahead, Wyatt, you want to... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I spent countless hours sitting on the front porch listening to my elders talk. We had this old man, Gene, across the street, and he was an old rancher, and I'd go over there and move his hay for him while he just stood there and would talk about the good old days and tell me about what he's witnessed in his life. And from every little story, there was something, a little piece to take, and more wisdom, more knowledge.
That's right. Good for you. Good for you for listening. Remember, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much.
Absolutely. Now, where do you hail
from,
go ahead,
Wyatt?
Chad.
Sorry, I heard
where do you hail from?
There.
Where are you from, Wyatt?
Excuse me.
Alabama, sir.
Oh, you're a Crimson Tide guy.
Yes, sir, I am. Roll Tide all the way.
Roll Tide. So
is the National Guard down there patrolling the streets? I mean, because that's one of the main focal points we've been talking about lately on this podcast of what's going on out there with this virus. And everyone wants to know, how you said everyone's freaking out. All your friends are freaking out over it. They think the government's going to save them, and they're waiting for a cure from the government. So what do you see out there?
Same thing you're seeing everywhere, to be honest, sir. We're just seeing, restaurants and everything's closing down. There's not much open. Shopping malls are completely closed out. They're cleaned out for the most part as well. There's no essentials. I mean, there's not much to do. The non-essential stores, they're all closing.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Are you seeing any of the drive-through virus testing sites and people lined up, at medical clinics to get tested like they're talking about on the news, but we haven't seen really anything of it? Are you seeing anything like that down there?
No, sir, I'm not.
None of your hospitals are packed with people?
There's a lot of people talking about the drive-through places. I have not seen one. I've heard they're open in New York. Actually, I was looking at one that was at the Ground Zero of New York. And there's one in Mobile, Alabama as well. I haven't seen them, sir.
And that's all you've heard of for testing sites?
Yes, sir. That's all I've heard of from social media links and whatnot. But personally, I cannot speak for have seen those myself. There's none of them over on this side of the bay.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
All right, let's see here. I think I got another caller here who wants to interact with Wyatt, so I'll go with him. 614, go ahead.
Hi, I'm just now getting tuned in, but I know I've been talking with my sons about this, and it does give them a little bit of stress, but it has given them a little bit of hope to know that people are making some sense out of this and trying to talk the panic down and these reactions. What about how do you feel like the anxieties are building in people of your age group? Do you see a lot of the anxiety coming out in people?
The average anxiety level of a high school student in this age is higher than that of a 1980s psych ward patient. And that's statistically speaking.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I like his honesty. I like that.
Right. Absolutely. I find that this would probably escalate the situation among the younger people, the high schoolers and the college-age students who already, so many people refer to them as snowflakes now, obviously, because they just kind of break and bend at every little thing. But I can't hardly imagine the mindset of a person. And I know you're not necessarily in that yourself, but I would imagine people who are, kind of losing their minds over this. Do you get anything like that?
The big problem that I've noticed personally is that the difference between your generation and my generation is the confusion level. Because most people I know are being indoctrinated to believe one thing, and then they hear another thing from y'all's generation, and they get confused, and then their anxiety builds up, and they don't know what to think or what to believe. So they go with the majority, and that's where I believe the problem is, because as kids we're always told to go with the flow, and that's where I believe personally it stems from, was being told to go with the flow. Now they're being confused with the indoctrination. They're just going with the hordes and believing what everybody else believes. My personal belief is I'd rather walk alone in the right direction than follow the pack in the wrong.
That's actually awesome. I could see go with the flow. My oldest boy has had that kind of issue. He's 20. The conflict with going with the flow and the programming, and there's a social ostracizing that happens when you decide that you want to think something different than the rest of the pack. And he's had to deal a lot with the ostracizing.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Wyatt. I didn't know if you want to comment on that. I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance here. We had a bunch of callers on the line, and just before you answer that, Wyatt, I want the callers to know one smart remark out of your mouth you're hung up on. So I just want you to know that. So we do a live platform here, Wyatt. I'm sure you can handle your own, but I just like to try to keep the platform clean as possible, because we do get a lot of jerks out there, and like you said, these Facebook warriors and trolls out there that want to hide behind a keyboard. But go ahead, Wyatt.
I was just going to say, I mean, you're right about the idea of if you have a different belief, you're slammed for it, essentially. I mean, I've got friends at the school dressed in their own attire. I mean, nothing offensive, but I have friends who have dressed in like Confederate flag hats or Donald Trump hats to school, and they get there and they get ostracized for it. They get yelled at. They have all of these kids yelling at them, telling them they're racist for their beliefs. It's just, I don't know, it's out of this world, to be honest. I never thought that I would see in this country.
Well, we had a presidency where you were racist if you didn't support the president. I was about to say, you had a presidency where you were racist if you didn't support the president. Now you have a presidency where you're racist if you do.
Exactly.
That's true. That is absolutely true. And how did matter of fact, while we got Wyatt on here, obviously he was, remembers Obama. How did your generation view Obama? Were they afraid to speak out against Obama? Because obviously, if you said anything bad about Obama, you were declared a racist then. And because Obama was like a god to everybody, especially the minority community, because he was going to give them all free houses and release all of them out of prison and everything. And if I remember correctly, but how did your friends and your circle of friends view Obama, or did any of them ostracize Obama, or were they ostracized out of your circle if they criticized Obama?
Honestly, sir, at that point in time, I wasn't paying attention to it too much, because of the fact that I was still so young. Like, I don't know, it didn't matter as much to me. I was under the belief that this public school system led me to believe, even like that's when it was just kicking off, and at that point in time, I just didn't care about the presidency.
I got you. That's fine. I mean, yeah, I got you. I mean, that's what. Children today, children should be learning, and I just remember when I was a kid, I remember Bush and Reagan, and I just remember kids, talking about it and everything, and it was just a different time, and it was just like Carter. I remember Carter. I think I was first grade when that election, Carter and Reagan, and it was just a different time. But yeah, that's interesting. It's very interesting. Let me take another caller here that may want to ask a question. Unless 614, you want to keep going here. You got some more things you want to ask, because it's interesting. It's very rare we do get an 18-year-old to come on to the podcast and tell us about his generation. That's very interesting.
I do find it interesting. I just make the comment that I appreciate you coming on here and letting us know what you think. I don't know a lot of young people that will come on and be interrogated by a bunch of adults, but I do appreciate you coming on, brother. That's great.
No interrogation. It's just different points of view. Everybody's got them, and it's okay to look at every point of view you can.
Amen.
Absolutely, and it also gives us an insight on where we need to work. So, yeah,
you're absolutely correct. Where we need to work, because us, us as older. Well, hang on, 614. I think you agree with that. That was an interesting point you just brought up. Is that we as adults really need to understand the youth out there also. We try to put ourselves on a pedestal, and really, it's our fault that the country's in such a freaking mess to begin with, right?
Oh yeah, our generation. It's not just our generation. It's what I would go back. You mentioned Carter. You know, hell, I don't know. You can probably go back to the assassination of Kennedy, but there's been quite a few generations since World War II that have really just let this country drop and descend into utter chaos. So this, how do we go from 20 years when I was young? I remember being in school and stuff, and everybody understood that communism and socialism was a bad thing. That was just common knowledge. And I was a kid. I didn't even. I don't know. And now we've gone into getting ready to majority elect a open card carrying socialist. Something happened along the way. Our generation really did drop the ball. That 20 years, or my dad's generation. Go ahead.
So you talk about that, you know, and I can remember a time in history. This was actually before I was born. You was probably, you know, a young man at the time. That we actually had commissions that actually hunted down communism and socialism. We had political committees and law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies that hunted down communists and socialists within the United States. I mean, that's how against it we were on both the Democratic and Republican side, was anti-socialist, anti-communist.
Right.
I mean,
and that's what I'm talking about. And I remember the earliest things I remember were Reagan. And I was a kid at the time. I remember Reagan getting on and talking about how bad communism was, and I've gone back through a lot of his speeches over the years since then, and of course that kind of alters my memory because I remember it and understand it better today than I did then. But the time to choose speech by Reagan is something that we need today. That speech that he made was so amazing. And very clear on who and what the enemy was and what they presented to the world and what they presented to the United States, how we were the last best hope of freedom on the planet, and if this nation fell, freedom all over the world would fall. And Reagan was very outspoken. He defeated the Russians in the Cold War through some very miraculous economic manipulation. The whole Star Wars project that made the Russians go broke trying to fight a anti-missile system that never existed was genius. But we had an active war, a Cold War, against the ideological Marxist principle that is now being championed in our universities 20 years later. 25 years later. Within our generation, we've gone from a Cold War against these ideologies to now our scholars are backing it. They're telling our children this is a good thing. What happened? How did that generation do that? I don't understand.
Well, that's a good question, actually. That's a great question, Adam. I'm going to bring on another caller, but that's something that actually, what happened during our high schools? What happened during our educational system? What happened in our entertainment world where we lost the Archie Bunkers of the shows, and we got to Will and Grace, and then we got to what? You know, what's on there today? I don't even know. I wouldn't even, you know what I mean? I mean, it's the entertainment field, and that's something interesting. Yeah, exactly. You know. But nice. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're absolutely fine. So I was just going to say, I mean, with that being said, it takes it back to the dumbing down of society as it is. I mean, if you look at the shows you watched when you were kids, y'all had the Andy Griffin Show. You had Magnum P.I. Nowadays, what do we have? Well, what do the kids have to watch? Teen Titans Go and like the Amazing World of Gumball. There's nothing in that show, in those shows, that's that is anything to lead you on in life.
Yeah,
I think
you're
about
absolutely
that.
correct.
Actually, you know what my kids watch all the time? They watch Family Guy. It's an idiotic show.
Yes, sir. It's just something there's no point in watching.
Yeah, I'm going to bring on 970. Go ahead. Another 970 here. Go ahead. I think that's another 970. You're unmuted. Go ahead. All right. Maybe he doesn't want to talk. He's unmuted. He pressed 1, so I'm not sure if they want us to come on or not. Hang on. I'm going to mute you, and then you're unmuted, okay? Go ahead. Unmuted. Next caller. Go ahead. All right. Okay. All right. I got you here. Okay. 848. Go ahead. You're next. Go ahead.
Hey, Joseph Gibson. This is Madeline Nitton. I used to call.
Okay. All right. That person. That's you're off. Okay. I already recognize the tone. I already recognize it. Go ahead. 814. Go ahead.
Yeah. My question is both for Chad and for Wyatt. Wyatt, be careful. I mean, with all these people on here on the line, I mean, I know you're 18 and Joseph's with NAMBLA, the Man Boy Love Association. He's gonna try to fuck you, dude.
Okay, all right. You're off the air. You're off the air too. Get lost. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're off the air, you jerk. 814-651-8255. That's where the number. That's where the jerk called in from. Everybody, call him. See how he likes it. You jerk. All right.
Don't threaten him.
All right. Go ahead. 619. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want your number read off. Probably. I don't know. All right. Okay. All right. Chad, go ahead. We're having a discussion here with an 18-year-old. This is great. We don't, like a couple callers have already said, it's not very often we get some 18-year-olds to call into the show and voice their opinions and talk about the things that they're facing out there in society and talking about their generation, because we need to learn from their generation, and that's what it's all about. So, Chad, go ahead. I got some other callers here. I'm going to check them out. Go ahead, Chad. You want to converse some more, or Adam there, you want to converse some more with Wyatt? You guys go right ahead.
So, Wyatt, how hard are you finding it now in your generation to actually build relationships amongst people? How hard is
it? Friendships is not too difficult, but the biggest problem is upsetting people's feelings and them not liking you because you hurt their feelings and now they don't want to talk to you. And it can be anything that could hurt their feelings, like you going and getting something to eat without them. It's just asinine to me. I've got a few good buddies, and that's all I need. We sit around, we shoot pool, and we talk, and we work on trucks, and that's about it. I grew up in the country. There's not a lot to do but drive around and find stuff to do, create your own stuff to do. So that being said, and I mean I train, but that's about it. There's only so much
why
you can do.
It seems to me. I mean, when I was a teenager, we had plenty of things to do around a small town. I grew up on a farm in the Midwest, and I did everything from cow tipping to shooting out stop signs and drinking at the ripe age of about 14 when my mom decided I was old enough to drink hot damn. But that's the difference between the generation now and my generation even. Excuse me, sorry, one moment.
Okay. All right. I'll give him a pause there. He probably got something going on.
May I say something real quick?
I'm going to bring on another this area code again. You'll hear. I don't know if he wants me to give out his area code, so I'm just go ahead and connect him. Go ahead. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
My apologies.
Hey, Joe, I had a question for Wyatt. Real quick, I wanted to ask you, in your generation right now, how do y'all get together and communicating? I mean, what's the first thing y'all are using to do this besides the standard social media, Facebook, and all that bullshit? How do you get word out? Because there's a lot more millennials out there. When we think of your age group, we're not thinking of young conservatives. We're thinking of a bunch of guys that, when the boomers are gone, what's going to happen to your generation?
Well, I would say that one of the biggest things we use is probably an app called Snapchat. You can create group chats on there. It's very similar to Facebook Messenger. It's mostly based off of pictures and videos. You can send back and forth. There are a lot of problems with it as far as people being young using it and can get in trouble. Besides that, though, we do a lot on, and as bad as it sounds, game systems. That's where I met a lot of my friends who are conservatives are on game systems and get in parties and start talking to other people and start meeting people, and you meet their friends, and sooner or later you end up with a group of not many, few and far between young conservatives, but they're out there. I mean, that's for damn sure. It's just hard to reach them. I mean,
okay. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, as far as like young conservatives, y'all are trying to, trying to give a platform or somewhere for young conservatives to get together and be able to speak to each other and get connected. Well, what's out there for your generation to do that? Something like what Joe's got going on right here. How do y'all put that together?
I would probably say creating a online website, ran off of its own servers and build it from there. Once you get that going, you can create your own streams and run your own stuff. That way people, just like what we have here with Joe, you can call in or you can tune in, listen to the stream, watch them talk, comment on it as much as you'd like. It's
not trying to put you on the hot seat here, but I mean, it does seem like you're definitely on it. As a caller said earlier, you're definitely getting interrogated, so I might as well continue that flow. When you think of your generation, let's the 18 to 27, 30 group, okay? From you all the way up to 30. Yeah. We see that generation as more leaning to the left than leaning to the right. How does somebody at your age group, how do you see it?
I see it the same way. I mean, young conservatives are a minority in general, in all honesty. There's not many of us. So, like I said earlier, it's the groups of people who believe to go with the flow, the peer pressure and stuff like that. They just kind of run with the idea that they don't want to be different. They don't want to be ostracized for their beliefs. So they just believe what everybody else is believing and stick with that. And that makes us where the people who want to help fix the world and bring it to bring the U.S. to what it could possibly be and take it back to the generation y'all had, where people communicated, when you shook a hand with somebody and meant something, when life was worth living and more about what's going on and what's going on down the road from you and who's doing what this weekend than it was about, I'm going to sit on my phone all weekend and do absolutely nothing. There's more.
Sounds like you're talking about community.
Exactly.
You're talking about community, and back in our day, community was something that we all, we embraced every day. And anyways, I want to commend you, young man, being on here. Hell of a damn job. Really, all I can say, just a hell of a job, Joe. Excellent. I hope you call.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I do have a question
real quick,
for Wyatt.
Okay, Chad, but before you ask him that question, I just want to say to the other callers out there, press the number 1 if you want to get on here. The phone number 657-383-0616. Press 1, and I'll see your number light up. I don't screen callers, uncensored, obviously. I'll get you on here. We got Wyatt. He's 18 years old. He's a conservative, and it sounds to me like he is longing for, and his generation is basically longing for that family-orientated past that we and our grandparents, great-grandparents, whatnot had, that where family got together, and that's not happening today out there in society. Maybe that's why we have this generation, these millennials, thinking the way they are. So go ahead, Chad. You want to ask him a question?
So, Wyatt, and this may sound like a real weird question. It probably is. Okay, now, Joe and, Phil and all these other guys would probably attest the same thing to me, that even the foods for the generation have changed. When I was growing up, and Joe and everybody, we had this thing called sandwich spread, ham salad. Okay, greatest food ever. You remember that, Joe?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so how do you guys perceive? Have you ever thought of, the generation, the times have changed, even including the food that fits your generation?
Oh, yeah, I've definitely considered it and thought about it, because it seems like most things nowadays that people are eating are bought and put in the microwave and you warm it up. Rarely do I hear about a home-cooked meal anymore unless it's in my house. We always have home-cooked meals here, but I got buddies whose moms go to the store and buy a microwave pizza, and that's their dinner. And it's just, it I guess takes it back to the family thing, and that's, I don't know what else to say besides that.
Because our generation grew up on stuff like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But we also have our generation also, which we've got a bunch of idiots out there. We see them. We just heard a couple that called in. We've got them in the chat room. You got this guy Heinz Guterin there in the chat room insulting everybody he possibly can. And this is the dumbed down, morally bankrupt society we have that are bottom dwellers out there that don't know. And that's the reason why our youth out there are crying out for a family-orientated, more value system out there, because the family values and the system that we have out there is so broken. And really, it's up to us to and our generation, even my generation, to come together and start teaching our youth and bringing our youth and rising our youth up and uplifting them, because I think there's good youth out there like Wyatt that are obviously are very knowledgeable and have a lot to say. I think they're not able to say it no more because of, like he said, is the peer group that he has is more of a text messaging on the computer, the keyboard warrior nonsense. They hide behind their keyboards, and they're not being taught to be who they are, who they can be, all that they can be winners. And I think that's very important, that it's something that should be addressed. And what Phil was saying was, we have to start a platform for them. That would be a good idea for young conservatives out there to come to this show or start their own network up and have their own show where they can invite their friends from their own individual age groups, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, get all those kids on here and talk about things, and we can listen to what they have to say, and they can talk about what their concerns are. I think that would be a great starting point to help fix break down the moral fabric of our society. But go ahead, Chad. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's an amazing idea, because the fact that kids seem to listen more to other kids than they do to elders nowadays. There's the whole thing, the whole meme of "Okay, Boomer," it's just insulting in my belief. I don't find it funny. I find it disrespectful, and it's not right. So it seems to me, seems to me that kids nowadays seem to listen more to what other kids are doing and what they think than what the elders think.
You know, Wyatt?
Wow.
You know what the difference between your generation and 75, almost 80 years ago was?
What's that, sir?
That 75, 80 years ago, a guy your age was storming a beach facing down German machine gun fires, and then this generation now is just looking for a place to hide and be coddled.
Exactly. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. And also that generation also was, guess what? When they came home from school, they didn't hop on a video game. They were out milking cows. Yep. They were out baling hay. They were out shoe shining. Even, let's just not say farmers. We go to the city kids back then. They were shining shoes, hustling. They were out there working. And the money they earned went to the family, and they put their money together to, unite.
If there was something they worked for
nowadays, anyone under 18 that wants to work today can't do it because of all the federal regulation on it now makes it so that employers, it's such a detriment for an employer to follow the regulation. They don't want to hire a minor.
Yeah,
they're running our children out of the workplace.
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. I unmuted you. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller. I unmuted you. Heard the unmuted. I don't want to give out your area code, but go ahead, caller. All right. Maybe I got. All right. Let's go with. Go ahead. All right. He's breaking up on us real bad. I think he's trying to say something. Let's go with 757 real quick. Go ahead, 757. Well, I don't know what the deal is with that one there, but okay. All right, 970. Go ahead. All right. We got a lot of people on the line, so obviously we're getting jammed here. So let's go with 321. Go ahead, 321.
Hey, Wyatt, I had a question.
Go ahead, 321. Go ahead. I've got so many people on the phone line. It's hard to keep them all connected. I got some calls dropping. Go ahead, 321. Go ahead. I got you. Go ahead.
Hey, Wyatt, I had a question for you. Are you circumcised?
All right, there you go. That's it. That's what we get. What's wrong with you? Let me clear some of these callers. I could already tell.
That's somebody whose throat needs slit for fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we. You don't understand people. We're talking about the times in which you live today. You don't get it. You just don't get it. The trash is going to be cleaned up if anything jumps off. You need to understand that. We're going to clean out the trash. We're coming for you. And you just don't get it.
Well, this guy does get it. He thinks it's a joke, right? He thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
And
that guy is a common caller. He
doesn't think that kind of stupidity is ever going to come back to haunt him. He doesn't think it. He thinks he can make a joke of life. He thinks he can make a joke of these issues and come on here and try to, I don't know, humiliate somebody? He ain't humiliating anybody other than himself and how idiotic he is. And eventually...
he wanted his 5 seconds of fame.
Right. Yeah. And eventually when real life hits him, because they weren't paying attention...
5 seconds of fame, that's for sure.
They don't understand that, Chad. They don't get that. See, they think they like Wyatt brought up. These people grow up in this generation, this coddled world, that they think they're protected, and they don't understand what an ass whooping is. They don't get it because today they don't play King of the Hill in the schoolyard no more.
They've got a safe.
We're gonna have to do a whole show. We're going to have to do a half a show on keyboard warriors one day.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. Yes,
I think
true.
that 970 caller was trying to say something.
All right, go ahead. Unmute. Yeah, go ahead.
Can y'all hear me this time?
Go ahead. You're on. Go ahead.
All right. I was just going to follow up a little bit on what Wyatt said on the gap, the differences between now and then, and how our generation is failing to realize it. It's quite ridiculous. Everybody wants to make jokes at it. Everybody wants to be goofy and go along with what's cool and what's funny and what's popular and this and that, but they're not really taking a look at what we need to be doing. We need to look at these old school values and realize why things were so much better back then. It's because these old school values are just the fundamentals of good life and of a good society, and it's ridiculous. Nobody wants to take respect into account anymore. Nobody wants to take any of this. They just, I don't know how to word it.
Yeah. You're wording it just perfectly. You know what? And it's the younger generation like yourself out there that gives hope to the generation that fought 75 years ago and stormed the beach of Normandy. That's why they're still have that clinging on to that little bit of hope, and even like my generation, we're out there like clinging to this hope, like, hey, how do we fix our republic? And it's good to know there's a younger generation out there like yourself that understand. Obviously, you came from good parents, a good family, or you just obviously have good genes, and you woke up and you're like, man, our country's broken, and I got to, you are awake, and that is key, and I commend you for that. And you're very well spoken, and you understand what's going on. And you know what? Your generation is shunned for that, basically, standing up. And Wyatt brought that up. Your generation is put down for that because everyone's a winner now. We got to make you feel good. We got to coddle you, and that's our fault.
To add on to that real
my
quick.
question is, if we had another 9/11 type scenario, how many of this generation would be willing to cross the line of departure and jump off of a C-130 in the dead of night over a foreign city and, watch anti-aircraft fire come up at them as they floated down to a piece of ground that they didn't know where they were. They were 12,000 miles from home. It was pitch black, and the only thing you had to see was a green scope to look through. How many kids today could say that they were ready for that, or would even be ready to retaliate in the instance that we were attacked again, just as my generation did almost 20 years ago?
Or 75 years ago, that generation that volunteered. They lied about their age to go fight.
Yeah.
I would say along the lines of ready to defend our nation. There's probably not many. For what you're talking about, jumping out of an aircraft into the dead night, is there anything that really prepares you for that? I mean, honestly, is there anything that prepares you for that experience, for going into enemy fire? The only thing.
If I could, I think what they're getting out here is just the mindset of individuals between our age gaps and our age of our generation they're not mentally prepared to take on a responsibility like that. They're too pampered. They're too entitled. They're not looking at the world for what it is, and there'd be a very low percentage of people who would even be willing to try these days.
Exactly. Everything was given to them on a silver platter, whereas they didn't have to work to earn anything. Everything was handed to them. They didn't have responsibilities. There was no mutual respect with it because everything was given to them. It was just given and given and given. So why would they ever have to work for anything if it was just handed to them? They don't know what it is to take pride in the fact that you worked for this, you owned this because you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it.
And we talk about that, guys. And you look at the men from the 1940s that actually, with their hands, built this nation. They created the baby boomer era. But these gentlemen from this era, who mainly most of them had anywhere between a 6th and 8th grade education at most, built this country. They put it on a path for success. And the hard part is to watch their children and their children's children and their children's children continue to stray down that path. And as we see our generation of what is the greatest generation that the world has ever known, as they watch, as they dwindle down, but they see what all they fought for. I had grandparents, grandfathers who fought against the Japanese and the Germans during World War II. And today, it brings tears to their eyes to watch their sacrifice go down the tube because they went and they laid their life on the line for freedom. A real war fought for you, fought for me, Joe, everybody on this program. Guys that went over did not know if they were going to be able to see home again. And it's a sad time in history for that generation, because we have destroyed, and we are all responsible. We have destroyed the very thing that they have fought for.
Agreed, Chad.
That's
and one thing also,
correct.
though, while I got the younger folks on here, what about now we get to, for instance, men treat women differently today. Obviously, we see that where and even my generation. We're talking about that generation of the 30s and 40s. That generation held the door for the women. They were the husbands. They were the breadwinner. They're the ones that supported the family. And women had their role too. But today you got the women in charge. I'm equal, and she should go out and be the career person too. And then you've got the male who is violent towards the woman, and we see the family breaks down, the division in your generation, your circle of your age group. How do men, because obviously we don't have any women on here right now that are your age, so obviously you can't talk from their perspective, but how does the young men out there treat the young women out there in your perspective? I mean, are they that like your great grandparents, where they foresee 50 years of marriage coming down the road, or 18 wives? Like we're going down, you know what I mean? Because that's what we have today.
Well, if I could, on the way that men treat women these days, it's definitely very, very bad. It's disgusting to witness. It's disgusting to know that people of our age are doing things like that. Well, personally, I surround myself with a group of young men that don't behave that way. We still open doors for women. We still yes ma'am, no ma'am, things like that. We still try to uphold those good values. I was raised in Arkansas. I'm a Southern boy, and down south, we have a lot. I don't know. I haven't spent too much time out of the South. I've been living in the Colorado area since last May, but just up here, for example, I've seen a lot higher concentration of a lack of values, a lack of respect towards their women, versus what I grew up with in a southern state, being taught what I consider to be the right way, where we still hold our women in very high regard. We treat them very nicely. We do our best to. And if, like I said, I hang around a group of guys that still try to uphold those values, I try my best not to surround myself around people that don't uphold those values. But I will say that especially out here, I've witnessed it a lot where they treat them very, very badly. They're rude to them. They talk to them like objects or dogs instead of people.
Yeah.
And they don't give them the
I've got another. Actually, I do have guys. I got someone else also that's part of this age group that's on the line, also waiting. So, and that's what the show is here for. We want the youth to call in. So they messaged me and said we have someone else here. So let's get them on. Go ahead, 507. Go ahead. Area code 507. Go ahead. You're on. Welcome to the show, 507. Come on. You messaged me. I know you did. Go ahead. All right. Maybe a little nervous. Doesn't want to talk. That's okay. 507. Blowing once. Going twice. All right. Okay. That's fine. Maybe they'll want to come back on. That's okay. Maybe they want to wait a little bit. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Go ahead. As soon as I hang up, they talk. Go ahead. 507. Go ahead. All right. They don't want to talk. Okay.
Joe,
all right.
perhaps reiterate that they need to press 1. That could be an issue. Maybe these guys aren't remembering.
No, they did. They sent me a message and I unmuted them. I have the power to unmute a mic too. They didn't press 1, but 507. If you want to talk and come on live, press the number 1 whenever you're ready. Okay. But we're trying to get young conservatives together. We want an age group here of around 18, 19, 20, 17, that vicinity. Call in. Now, as far as we talked about this earlier, Wyatt, and what we've got here is we've got a younger generation, like we talked about, where boys can't be boys, Men, they're not being taught how to be men. We see the TV shows out there. I mean, we hear the talk shows out there. I mean, we've got people listening to this talk show right now where they've been calling in, and you can see they sound like little girls, and that they get, you know, and they don't know how to act. You know, they don't know how to act like young men. They don't know how to act like men. You know, what advice do you have out there for us or for your generation out there? Or is there any answers what we can do to try to fix our society that's so morally bankrupted and broken down, and where men could be men and women could start acting like women too? We just can't blame it all on the men now. The women are part of this too. So what do you see, and what advice can you give?
I would say respect and hard work, sir. Taking pride in something you've done, and that's where I learned. That's where I learned most of who I am, is being able to do something, step back and look at that. Like I did that myself. As I said earlier, one of the things I think is the community, the family aspect, gotta come together, gotta build communities with what they were, get people away from all their devices and all the time. Actually socialize with one another and build a community and get the word to this generation.
Okay, all right. I'm going to ask.
I think
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that a big part of
this
thing has to do with it a lot too is the technology, our reliance on technology, our lack of social skills from not going outside and doing things. Everybody our age is sucked into their iPhones and their video games, and I'm not going to say I'm not one of them doing it. I'll sit around and play video games for hours sometimes. But we need to reduce that. We need to bring more focus onto actual real social circumstances and what's socially acceptable and what is respectful and what is not. We need to bring more importance onto that. We need to bring less importance onto technology. And we need to limit our access to this distraction that it is, this distraction. And we need to put more focus, like I said, on respect, on proper mannerisms, on proper life experience, and like Wyatt was saying, being able to do something and say you did it. And there's a whole lot that goes into it.
Hey, Joe, the young man talking right now, he said he was from out of Arkansas. How old is he?
Yeah, how old are you?
21.
21. Okay. All right, and I want to ask 507 a question. They said they're direct a specific question they'd be happy to answer. Okay, so I'll unconnect you once they answer the question. Is the two-parent system basically what is wrong with? I mean, the broken, like you said, the divorce rate when the family becomes separated in half, a man and a woman, or the father and mom are separated. Do you think that is contributed a lot to the brokenness of our family units in our country today, that has hurt our youth, not just for your generation, but the generation before you and maybe the next generation also? And do you see, and it's a two-part question, and what can we do to fix that, where a man and a woman can, when you get married, you stay together. You don't, you make that commitment, that bond. Your word is your word. When you say I do, period. End of story, for better or worse. Do you think that's what we need to do, and how can we fix that? Go ahead, 507, go ahead. All right, 507, I did what you asked, so come on. You got to step up to the plate, 507. Obviously, they don't want to talk. They just want to listen. Yeah, he's microphone shy. They're messaging me, so I asked the question. I did what they asked. So, but that's okay, and that's the problem. Wyatt just brought that up. It's they're quick with the emails. They're quick on social media, but to have human contact with each other and speak to each other, people are. And it's no offense. I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm not saying that anything's wrong or you're brought up the wrong way. It's just that. This is how society doesn't know how to communicate anymore. They don't know how to talk to each other.
Well, they do if it's
weird. Yeah. And that's the thing. I just don't get it. I mean, I wouldn't have been afraid when I was a kid, man. Put me on the radio. I'm all for it. To hell, man. I got a lot to tell. You know, obviously. Look at me now.
we're looking at an age. We're looking at an age where even in my line of work, where I have bosses that do not want you to call them for anything. The first thing I hear out of their mouth is either email me or text me. You know, I can be in the same building as them. Just email me. You know, 3 offices down, send me an email. I mean, we're in this day and age where, you know, when I first got in the business, we used to have actual conferences and meetings. We got in front of each other at a table and we discussed things. And at that point in time, people could read what we were saying. You know, we could see each other's, you know, expressions. We knew what each other were saying. Now you have everybody relying on a telephone conference call, so to speak, and you don't know what that person's thinking or feeling really. I mean, are they just telling you what they want to hear or what you want to hear?
Chad is so spot on with that, too. Lisa and I are contractors. We run a construction outfit, and we have people talk to us all the time and say, well, just go ahead and email the contract over. Go ahead and email the proposal, email, you know, the addendums and changes. We're like, no, we're not doing that. You know, we're either going to meet face-to-face and go over this or, you know, find another contract. Yeah, we're not getting into the whole.
And by the way, that
thing.
507, though, by the way, not to interrupt you, that 507 was a female, actually. So I kind of wish she would have spoke, but she was a little bit nervous. I mean, after all, it's a panel filled with men. I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, come on, it's all men on here. So, you know, obviously she probably doesn't want to go out there. You know, I mean, she's a younger female. I don't know how old she is, but I think she's around that age group that we have on here. So. Doesn't want to say
really needed her to come on too.
Yeah, we do. We kind of needed her perspective on what she sees wrong with even the young men out there that maybe she's dating or the high school generation or what have you. You know, what's wrong? What's going on? I mean, this is how you're gonna fix it. You gotta put it out there. You know, you just gotta be brave.
We live in a generation, in a time now where being a gentleman is now sexist. You know, holding a door open for a woman is sexist. I mean, I can even remember times in the Army when we had female officers that would get upset, or a female NCO would get upset if I held the door open for them. I would get stubborn remarks like, I'm capable of doing that myself, thank you. You know, or in a store somewhere. You know, women are the same way. They don't need men for anything. They've been taught that they are independent, self-sufficient women. They don't need men for anything. And, you know, this day and age, we're basically grouped into two categories.
She's afraid.
Yeah. Well, hang on. I think I got another female on here, maybe but she's a little bit old. I don't know, if you call her old, you get slapped in the face, you know. But she's a little bit older. But I think she's. I think this is somebody I know. So let's try to connect her. Go ahead. 320.
Hello, Joe.
Yes. How
you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go
I
ahead.
have been listening. Good show. It's good to have them young people on here. And as a mother with a 21-year-old, 18, 12, 11, 9, 3 and 2-year-olds, kids are not what they used to be at all. And the divided family thing, that is a huge issue, and it does make a big impact on kids doing what they're doing these days, because with all the chaos and all the stuff that's going on in their lives, they're getting pushed aside, so they're turning to video games or distancing themselves from other kids. When shit hits the fan at my house, it's like, go outside. We're cutting wood. We're doing things as a family, or you know what? Go take some wood and start building a tree house. kids are very, I'm not going to say naive, but they're not open to many things out there. They're not exposed to many things out there. Like
they
they
don't
used to
have
be.
the imagination they used to have.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like but they live these shallow, protected lives, though. I think Wyatt brought that up, is where they're protected and sheltered behind this internet and these cell phones and whatnot. For instance, like I got a guy right now in my chat room talking smack about me, and I said, "Come find out. I'll leave the porch light on for you. Come on and find out anytime you want. I don't care. They know where I live. Come on. But the thing of it is, this is what we're talking about. Is today we don't have the if you say something wrong to somebody, oh, you threaten me, or something like that, or they get scared, and we see that in the high schools today, like this big thing about bullying. Bullying is wrong, yes, and hurting other, picking on the weak. We didn't tolerate that in my high school. If a group of kids were picking on one individual, you know what? The other people that were a little bit bigger and stronger, they would stick up for the small guy, and that would help raise up the small guy, and that's how it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all had, it was different. Today, you have this like Shark Tank mentality, where and in the schools, and therefore, and because they're so coddled, that see something, say something. Hell no! Back when I was going to school, you see something, shut your mouth.
That's
right.
when I was in school. If I was in school and somebody was bullying me, they better hope to God that they were bigger than me.
Yeah. The bigger they fall, what is it? The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Remember that old saying?
Absolutely. I mean, I found out that bullies just slap.
Yeah. But Jamie, there. I mean, obviously you're a mother of what do you teach your young sons there on the mother aspect of the motherhood aspect of how they should treat other women? Because we did have a younger female on the phone line, but she didn't want to speak. She was a little afraid. So what are you teaching your sons to correct the problems of what you see out here in society today and in the school system?
Okay, so I'm one of those that I don't need to depend on another man, but I like the fact that I can depend on another man. Okay, so I have one girl, and the rest of the 6, they're all boys. So now I have to deal with...
She's going to be tough.
Yeah, she is tough. So now I have to deal with, like, how would I want to be treated? That's the way I need to treat or teach my son. I feel that there should be respect. There should be an equal partnership when you do find another woman to be with. I don't like the fact that, do it all yourself. Do it all yourself. I think it should be equal partnership, and that's what I'm teaching my boys. Now, my 2 boys got in a fight last night, like a physical fight. I sat there and I watched them fight, okay? Because if you're going to hash it out, you're going to hash it out right in front of me. And I guess not many parents are like that. But that's how I was raised. We didn't interfere and be like, oh, you're bullying me, or your kid's beating up my kid. Bull crap. They let you hash it out, and it was done. I teach my kids to be like that, and I really don't care what anybody thinks.
When I was growing up, Jamie, I grew up in a household with 6 brothers, 4 sisters. There was 11 kids. My mom and dad, we lived on a farm, and my dad's old saying goes, if we had a spat with each other, we take it out back behind the barn, and whoever drops is the loser.
Yeah.
We had. But today, the kids today, they don't know how to fight and then get up and shake hands. They want to stomp they're killers today. They're savages. I mean, they're like a shark tank.
That's a part. I feel that's a part of the parents' fault.
Yeah,
that's a part of the parents' fault because the parents aren't caring. they're doing whatever they can to push their kids away. Hey, go do this. No, fucking deal with it right now.
You know, we live in the cell phone age.
Hang on, Chad. Go ahead, Phil's been trying to. Hang on, Chad. Phil's been trying to get in there for a while. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, well, I was just going to echo Jamie a little bit. She's absolutely correct when we're talking about this whole thing about men not treating girls right and men not treating their ladies right, and now they've gotten to an age where we're seeing men not treating their women right. That's on that's on the dads and moms. I mean, you know, those of us who are parents out there, and you see your boy treating a girl wrong. I mean, first he shouldn't, because he should have already learned how to treat a lady the right way. And you know, moms and dads have got to teach us to these young men. But they got to teach the young girls how to act like a lady, too. They're not out there acting the way these rap music tells them to act and all these videos tell them to act. I mean, damn it, you can't even pull up a music video unless it is showing guys to treat women bad and showing women to enjoy being treated bad. Society in the whole has gone to shit. And, Joe, you were touching on high school a while ago, this high school mentality. You talk about hitting the nail square with a hammer. This whole mentality started by don't spank your kids, don't touch your kids, don't touch them. Well, down south, we're still whipping your ass off these kids. But everybody stopped doing this stuff nationwide. Well, that high school mentality, it didn't quit at high school. These people carried this on into their young adult lives. They think that they're privileged. You can't do this. Like you said, see something, say something. I mean, we've got this just going on. And as a society, we've got to come together and stop this. And our best defense against this shit is these young callers you got on here. We got to get, you know, the youth moving. Because, you know, a lot of these kids in the youth, man, and we all know, we'll stand and talk to kids in their teens and 20s, and they look at us, you know, that damn white hair, and they're like, I don't want to listen to anything this gray-headed bastard's got to say. You know, so, but they'll listen to each other talk. You know, the
I'm
whole
not even gray-headed,
Wyatt was
I get that.
Yeah, it's like Wyatt was talking about
correct.
earlier in the show. The whole thing for, you know, the youth being taught to respect your elders, where did that go? That's gone. You know, they don't even talk about that anymore. And it's, you know, respect your teacher and do as what they're teaching you and be indoctrinated like the rest of the sheep is kind of the platform that they're going with. Anyways,
you know,
I just want to throw that out there real quick.
You know, Phil.
Yeah, man, that's great.
You and I work in the construction industry, and aside from
that's
your
boys,
boys,
we don't know any better.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you get this younger generation of kids that come in looking for a job, and I see it all the time in the company I'm in. They come in, they're looking for a job that starts them out at high pay, and you know, and the first thing you do is you hand them a shovel. Then you tell them you're a laborer now. All right? And that's something they don't teach in schools anymore, is about labor. They push college, they push degrees, they push, you know, sitting behind a desk, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a, you know, civic project leader, you know, go out and make a difference in the world. But then you get those few kids that are looking for a job, and they come in, and you hand them a shovel, and they look at it like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Right, but I'm gonna say something about that too. I think what we're doing as a generation, what we got these younger ones on. I know you got two of them under, at least maybe three. I think what we're doing is we're starting to categorize that whole damn generation of millennials and what's the other one, Gen Z. I think we're trying to categorize the whole thing as just kids have become lazy. They're sloppy. They can't even pull up the damn pants the right way. You know, boys dressing like girls. Girls, you know, just Jesus Christ, girls are just acting crazy out there. And we're starting to categorize that whole generation. And, you know, that damn sure isn't helping anything.
No, it's not.
Because I've got a bunch of young guys that work with us, and some of them come out there and they're exactly what you're describing, man. They want a paycheck, and all of a sudden it's like, well, damn, this is a lot like work. Well, that's why we call it work. You know, they don't want nothing to do it, and they leave. We got guys that work a half a day, go to lunch, and we never see them again. You know, then we got other these. You got some young bucks that bust that ass out there too. But we got some guys that really work hard, man. They get out there and they'll go from cane to cane all day long.
You know, I'm a crew leader, and today I was working with a crew today, and me being a crew leader, I was down in a hole getting muddy, coupling pipe together, and you know there was a couple of laborers standing up out of the hole looking at me doing it. You see a problem with that?
Joe, you still got Wyatt and 970. They still on here?
Yeah, actually, I want to get to closing thoughts. Yeah, I want to give them the closing thoughts of the show. So I'm going to move up and down the line here and give everybody like a minute, because that's what we got left here. I got 20 of you on the platform, so everyone's going to get a minute. Okay, so 320, you get the minute first. Go ahead.
All right. All I have for some advice for you younger guys out there, don't be afraid of hard work, because hard work is coming. Whether you realize it or not, there's not a day
Amen.
that goes by that I don't teach my kids what hard work is, because they are not going to grow up to be hidden behind a screen, because that's not okay, not in my household. And about the ass whooping, it happens up north too, because I ain't afraid to frickin' whoop my kids' ass. They're going to be messing up. But you know what? They have respect. They have respect for people. They have respect for elders. My kids will get out of the car at the grocery store and see an old lady having trouble getting out of their car, and they'll go help her, because I raised them that way. So that's all I have.
All right.
I yield.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. All right. I'll mute you when you're done, everybody. Just listen in. Okay, 1 minute, private caller. Go ahead. I'm going to move right up down the line. If you say something stupid, you're off. Go ahead. All right. You don't want to say nothing? Okay. Go ahead, private caller. Go ahead.
Hello. I'm very impressed with it's good to hear a good mother like Jamie, and I'm very impressed with her parenting skills. I just want to know how...
Thank you. She appreciates that. Thank you. That was good of you. Before you got to say anything stupid. 210, go ahead. Yeah, okay. All right, good night. Good night to you, too. Okay, all right. Hey, 614, go ahead, 1 minute. I think that's Adam. Adam, you still there?
Totally impressed with the guy. Yeah, yep. I've been totally impressed with this conversation tonight, and I think we got a lot of good insight. The idea of parents failing and families failing, that has been the discussion of a great many conservatives over the years. I know Alan West talks about that in the he doesn't just talk about that in the black communities. That affects everything. Even the church communities are experiencing, a 50% divorce rate. I know a lot of people that are having hard times in their marriage. I know this thing personally, and I know it really does affect your children. It affects their development. It causes anxieties that they don't need. As one of these kids got on here and said that the psychosis or the anxieties of these children exceed that of psychotics on a lot of cases. So we really, as a community or as a nation or as a state or however you want to look at it, we got to look at this breakdown when this is over and understand that we really have to come together and come up with a real solution, not just laws. We don't need more laws. We have plenty of laws. You can't legislate your way into prosperity. You can't legislate your way into morality. We really need to question where it is we're going with these directions. Why is divorce profitable for the state? The state actually makes money in divorces. They make money in child support. They make money in dividing families. So it's in their interest to allow those things to happen. And we need to take that money interest out of divorce. And there's so much to this that we just need to look at. And these kids, they deserve a real future. I'm trying to provide that future for my children. I want them to be free. I want them to experience the carefree, more or less carefree childhood I had. I mean, everybody had their issues as a child, but the issues that these kids will go through if this economy collapses, if we turn into some third world country, that's not a future I want for our children. Anyway, I think I'll yield back at that.
All right, thank you. 203, go ahead. 203, you want to say something real quick?
No, sorry. I was on mute. I had to take the mute off. Very good call. Very educational. All good people on the call finally, and get rid of those trolls like you're doing because we don't need them. That's all I got to say. keep on doing the good stuff.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead, Chad. Go ahead, take a minute, because then I'm going to get to the two young guys that were here, and actually I got two more before them. But go ahead, Chad.
I just wanted to thank the youth that are on here tonight, this generation, for coming on here and having a conversation with us. I actually asked it if you know people that are of opposing views, even liberal, minded, left-leaning, peers, invite them to the show so, we can get an understanding of their side. We want to understand everybody. We want to know what makes people tick so we can better understand and how to maybe change maybe the way we perceive them and maybe the way they perceive us. If we can open up a dialogue there that doesn't include negativity, that doesn't include, somebody from my generation and an older conservative being negative towards them, and so that they feel comfortable enough to talk to us, please do. And I thank you, for coming on tonight and sharing your thoughts and your views with us. At that point, I yield back.
Thank you so much. All right, Phil, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, brother, I just want to say, man, impressive show tonight. Just incredible. Two young guys on the Saturday night sitting on a radio show with a bunch of old dogs like us for a couple hours. I mean, wow, did you think that was going to happen, huh? But just a great show. I don't want to talk too much. I'll call in on another show and we'll do some talking then. I want to hear more from these young guys. I'm going to yield back.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wyatt. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. You talk, and then what's the other gentleman's first name? What's the other young man's first name?
That'd be Philip.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Wyatt. You first, and then your partner in crime now tonight. Go ahead, Wyatt.
Okay. I want to touch on this real quick because you were talking about young men and women and relationships. One of the problems I've noticed in that are men seem to treat, like the younger men, they take their role models from all the social media and all the rappers and stuff like that, and they start treating women like objects. And, I mean, with that being said, once you break a girl like that and you, like, hurt her in that way, it's going to take a long time to recover, and she's just going to go through phases. So, you can't treat them like that. It's not an option. And I wanted to touch down on you were talking about Ronald Reagan's speech earlier, A Time to Choose. It's an excellent speech. I've listened to it several times myself. And that takes us, it's about the age-old war between safety versus freedom. With more safety comes less freedom. With more freedom comes less safety in ways. And with that being said, time for thinking on subjects is, with the way the world's going, it's looking like it's coming to an end here shortly. So everybody needs to start looking for a decision.
Yeah, go ahead. I want your partner there. I'll tell you what, I'll play that speech at the end of the podcast. It's only 3 minutes and 23 seconds long, so I'll play that at the end. But go ahead, your partner there. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, and thank you. And before you do, thank you so much for spending your time this evening on this platform with a lot of adults, some jerks, but most of us are patriots out there, and we care about you and the youth out there. We really do, and we thank you very much for sharing your time tonight with us. So go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Just want to say, it's been a good conversation. I'm glad I called in. Glad I talked to everybody. It's refreshing to have intellectual, dynamic conversation with people in this day and age. And it's really good to be able to communicate with those of the older generation. It's good to see others of my age on here conversing about it, and it's just everyone's been asleep, man, and it's about time they wake up. It's about time everyone wakes up to these issues, and that's what they are, major issues. And like I said, they just need to wake up. It's a good thing that these kind of podcasts are happening out there, and I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see more of our younger generation waking up, talking about it, and like I believe Chad said, the liberals, I'd love to hear from some of them our age. It'd be great, not to argue, not to dispute, but to compare thought processes and deduct what needs to be done here. And either way, I don't really have much else to say there, and under a minute. So everybody have a good night. It's been good talking to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on, like I said. And let's just try to hook up, and we can use my platform if you want. If you can get enough of your friends there to come on, even if like you start off with 3 or 4 of you, or 2 or 3 of you, and invite your friends, it'll grow. Trust me, it'll grow. And if you want to use my platform to do that one night a week to have those types of conversations, trust me, you'll have a lot of the adults, and they'll just listen. They don't, it'll be your guys' show. So that's something to think about in the future. So yeah, I'll play the Ronald Reagan thing. Well, we'll talk. And the Ronald Reagan thing is only 2 minutes and 37 seconds long, so go ahead and listen to it.
Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war. But there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time, we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than death, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material compositions. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.